Hello everyone, my name is Juan Camilo Carrascal and today I'm going to present you my error analysis production from a script from Simsorama. So today I'm going to talk about, first of all, what is error analysis and its importance. Error analysis is a branch of applied linguistics and it is centered on the compilation, study, analysis on errors made by a second language learner, and it aims at investigating aspects about a second language acquisition. According to Kazemian 2015, they may provide insights into the complicated processes of language development, as well as a systematic way of identifying, describing, and explaining students' errors. Another aspects that we need to take into account when doing error analysis are the classification of such errors, such as the phonological ones. The phonological ones are related with the sounds and the pronunciation from speakers, and in this case is learners from our students. The semantic errors are more related with errors that are related with meaning, so they tend to affect what the speaker is trying to say or write. The syntactical ones that are more related with grammatical rules that need to be in a congruency way in order to be well understand. The lexical ones that are more related with misspelling, replacements, or deletion of letters, that in this case tend to develop the meaning of a sentence. The morphological ones that are more related with the errors with the knowledge that they already have, but they tend to be committing the same mistakes during the process of speaking or writing. The grammaticals are those rules of structures that they need to follow in order to be specific when talking about or making a sentence or even trying to write. We also need to take into account the source of errors, such as the interlingual, that is related with the interference from language one, that in this case is Spanish, and intralingual, that is the interference from the second language, or the problems they have with learning a second language, that in this case is English. Well, as a way to analyze the grid, I took a fragment from a show called Sensorama, and I found some mistakes, and I classified them into this grid. So let's take a look about these mistakes. Like, for example, the first one. In the first one, the learner or the student tried to do a specific way of writing, but they tend to do some mistake right here, and it was they didn't put the personal pronoun here that it was they, and without that it doesn't make sense in the whole sense. So I classified it as an syntactic error because it's a rule that they already have, but they tend to be forgetting that or tend to do a transfer from Spanish. And a remediation that I proposed to develop this error was the systematization activity concerning the proper use of personal pronouns. Another mistake that I found was a morphological one. I was the uses of preposition when they weren't supposed to be there. Like this is example when they used to, but it wasn't supposed to be there. So in the correction fragment, I do this correction omitting this preposition and using it in the correct way. And I classify as a morphological a mistake or error because it was an interference from maybe Spanish, and also it was a rule that they already learned, but they tend to be forgetting. Also, another one here, that he had a purpose, but he didn't remember what his purpose was. In this error correction that I did, it was supposed to be about redundancy. So I classified it as a lexical error because they tend to be writing the same sentences because they don't have a extend really great vocabulary. So I propose a remediation activity as systematization concerning redundancy. Also in this one, the asyntactical error. Here, they use some verbs that they weren't supposed to be there. So I tried to develop in another way and replace it with took, that it could enhance the meaning of the sentence. So as a replacement activity, I propose the proper use of verbs and word order. In the next page, also, I found some mistakes concerning morphology. And it was related with the use of connectors. They weren't using connectors in a proper way, so the writing production was a little bit confusing. So I tend to add this connector right here that was there for, in order to make it with a little bit more of sense. So I classified it as a morphology and semantic mistake. And I propose a systematization activity concerning the use of connectors and the verb tenses usage. And in this one here, you can see it's an interlingual problem because they tend to transfer from Spanish to English, because occasioning doesn't exist in English. It's cousin. And as a remediation activity, I propose a conceptualization activity concerning Spanish transference into English in order to make them see that they were making this mistake because they were taking words from Spanish that weren't supposed to be there. And another one here, he had an idea to meet in a capsule to send them to the space. In the correction part, I made a total development of this phrase because it wasn't making any sense. So I did this. Finally, the professor had the idea to send them in a capsule into space, and I classified it as a semantic error because it wasn't making any sense. So it was really hard to understand these sentences because there was no meaning. The meaning was not really accurate. So I also proposed a replacement and systematization activity concerning prepositions. Well, as a matter of fact, I would like to conclude this presentation by saying that this error analysis grid was really helpful for me because it provided me the opportunity to see the mistakes these students were making. And in addition, I would like to say that as a future teacher, it is quite important to analyze these mistakes and to correct them in a proper time in order to enhance these problems in the future and also provide a more meaningful learning process. So that's all I'm going to present today. Thank you so much. And also I would like to that you see my references. That's all. Thank you so much.